不就很有 sporty 的地方。也不就很有 sporty 的地方。也不就很有 sporty 的地方。也不就很有 sporty 的地方。이제 95번이네. 295번 지인의 선택지. 이거就很有 sporty 的地方。이제 95번이네. 295번 지인의 선택지. 이거就很有 sporty 的地方。이제 95번이네. 295번 지인의 선택지. 이거就很有 sporty 的地方。 你不觉得很有 sporty 的地方？你不觉得很有 sporty 的地方？你不觉得很有 sporty 的地方？
Thank you, everyone. I'll start by saying this is probably going to be a pretty informal conversation. I've had the good fortune of knowing Dan for a lot of years, and so there's a friendly dynamic that we can talk about and the industry. But first, to introduce Dan, Dan has a very impressive track record and resume at Goldman Sachs, Tiger Management, and then started Pantera Capital, and in 2013 was really the first, in my judgment, first institutional fund to set up a Bitcoin fund in 2013 when Bitcoin is about $65 per coin. And that means that he's now had about an 87,000% return. And he told me backstage when we were talking about this that he's 9% away from calling it a 1,000x fund. So today, Pantera Capital has about $5 billion under management. They've returned billions of dollars to their investors over the years, so an incredible success story. So what I want to dive into here, hopefully you get the sense Dan truly is amongst the original gangster crypto guys. He's the original gangster. And I remember very vividly when I first got involved with crypto, Dan was organizing a conference called Pacifica, and it was a Bitcoin Pacifica. And it was to host people in the growing community. This is 2015. And I remember very vividly the first time I went into this conference, I remember thinking this is the moment in Star Wars where you walk into the alien bar and people had multiple heads, and I'm like, what is going on? But so I thought, there's some photos from this in 2015 that I dug up when we were preparing for this. And some of you, well, that's Dan on the left up there. Katie Hahn is sitting down there, and you might recognize her because she runs one of the biggest crypto funds. Jesse Powell from Kraken, and some guys from Bitfury there, the whole crowd. But what I thought to start with is asking Dan, so you started organizing these events. Like, what was your goal in kind of bringing people together so early? And I guess two questions. One, your goal, but also, as we talked about backstage, more than almost anyone I know, you saw around the corner and you saw this trend coming. Like, talk to me about what you saw coming, what happened, and what you've gotten right.
Yeah, thanks. I think the way I got my head around it is there are protocols that move all the rest of the information around the world called the internet. But even in the 90s, Milton Friedman said we were missing an e-cash system. And that's the way I view it, as a way to move value without all these very expensive middlemen. Banks, credit card companies, title insurance companies, they're so, remittance companies, so expensive. And so this seems like it's going to be kind of the final piece of the protocol puzzle that is the internet. And so I got excited about it. And it was a very fringe group back then. A lot of crazed libertarians that want to take down the Fed, and very, very strident views. And I thought it'd be good to get a bunch of people in a room, it was actually my house, and just share views. And we had a very eclectic mix of people. Some incredible libertarians. They were so passionate about it, one of whom renounced his US citizenship and left the United States. With Katie Hahn, it wasn't a VC then, she was a federal prosecutor. We had
prosecuting crypto companies.
Yeah, prosecuting crypto companies, people that really hated the government. We had a CFTC commissioner, a Fed economist. So I want to get all this really wild group together just to kind of further the conversation, to help both sides get to know each other. And I really do think things like that are so useful to help both sides understand where they're coming from, and help kind of make blockchain happen faster than it would have otherwise.
What is it? I mean, so you obviously, I agree with that, by the way. Bringing those groups together in those early stages, I think, helped catalyze a lot of kind of forward momentum in lots of ways. But you go back before 2015 Pacifica. I think I joined the third one, so you'd already done it for a few years. What was it when you first, in 2013, set up Pantera's first Bitcoin fund? What was it that you saw that made you kind of go all in on crypto so early?
Well, when you have a new technology, they try and use an analog to the old world. Like SMTP is called electronic mail, you know? And so people call this a cryptocurrency. Some people call it a commodity. It's a payment rail. You can do cross-border remittance on it. It's really the miracle whip of finance, right? You can do so many different things. And all those businesses are so valuable that even if, you know, crypto gets just a couple % of each of those use cases, it's going to be incredibly valuable. And the total value of crypto at the time was minuscule. I still think it's very, very small relative to all the assets on Earth. It's still a very small single-digit % of all the assets. So I've been a macro trader my whole life and looking for very asymmetric bets, you know, where you certainly can lose some money, but if you make money, you know, the upside's much higher than the downside. And this seemed to me at the time, it still seems to me, the most asymmetric trade I've ever seen. That the upside is just so much bigger, you know, than what you could lose.
It's a good segue, you know, as evidence that Dan was truly one of the original gangsters. On the next slide, if we could put up a screen, Dan was quoted in a book called Digital Gold, which came out in 2015. And as you can read up here, I'll read it. He's talking about Urban Outfitters as a comparison that all the Bitcoins in the world were worth about the same amount as the company Urban Outfitters. I think when they dig up our society, all Planet of the Apes style, in a couple of centuries, Bitcoin is probably going to have had a greater impact in the world than Urban Outfitters. We're still in the early days. Now, that was 2015. Where are we now?
Yeah, so I mean, that is still the way I look at it, that if you look at the value of both all cryptocurrencies together, it's, you know, it's about 3 trillion. This has Bitcoin at 1.2.
We put the next slide up actually as well. So this shows where we are today.
Yeah, so, you know, we're ticking them off. When I first said that, it was the same value as Urban Outfitters. A few years ago, we updated it, and it was the same value as L'Oreal. And waterproof mascara is really cool, but, you know, financial inclusion for 4 billion people is more important. It's gone through a couple more of the bigger companies out there, including the company right below it is a very Bitcoin skeptic, run by a Bitcoin skeptic. And now it's the same as Meta, right? Photo sharing is really cool and all, but financial inclusion for 4 billion people just has to be worth more in the long run. So that's why I'm still have so much conviction that we're still not, you know, it's still priced very inexpensively. And something to remember, the internet turned 50 last year. Bitcoin's only 14 years old. Crypto, 14 years old. So we're still really early in this process. And I think, you know, the companies above it, you know, they're important. They do some cool things. But, you know, in 20 or 30 years when we look back, it just seems like crypto is going to have had a much bigger impact than the companies above it.
One of the other stories that Dan and I caught up about that as we were talking about this, getting together for this, he shared with me that early on he had been kind of all in on a company called BitPay. And as some of you guys know, BitPay is enabling the acceptance of crypto to pay for things. And he shared with me a little nugget here that he had used, Expedia started accepting Bitcoin early on. And there's a couple of really famous examples up here. The last one on this